Tonight, you're going to do something so dangerous that if an engineer had designed you, they'd call it a fatal flaw. You're going to lie down, close your eyes, and shut off your own body for 8 hours. You won't be able to see danger coming. You won't be able to run. You won't even know you exist. For a third of your life, you are completely defenseless. Every survival instinct evolution ever built should have deleted this. It didn't. In fact, it made it non-negotiable. So the question isn't why you get tired. The question is why sleep survived at all. Because when you actually look at it, sleep makes no sense. And the reason it exists anyway is stranger than anything you've been told. Let's start with what happens if you don't. In 1989, a team of researchers at the University of Chicago ran an experiment that no ethics board would approve today. They took 10 rats and they simply would not let them sleep. Not with shocks, not with pain. They built a gentle machine, a disc over a shallow pool of water, and every time a rat's brain slipped toward sleep, the disc turned and the rat had to keep walking or fall in. The rats had unlimited food, they had water, nothing was hurting them, and they ate more than they ever had in their lives. But something started going wrong anyway. Their fur turned patchy and yellow, sores opened on their skin and wouldn't heal. Their bodies couldn't hold a stable temperature anymore, and then, somewhere between 11 and 32 days in, every single one of them died. Here's the part that haunted the scientists. When they opened the rats up to find the cause of death, there wasn't one. No failed organ, no disease, no injury. Nothing a coroner could point to and say, this is what killed it. The only thing that had happened to these animals was that they were never allowed to sleep. That was the whole cause of death. Not a symptom of anything, just the absence of sleep itself. Now, you might be thinking, that's rats. People pull all-nighters all the time. And it's true, humans are more resilient than a rat on a rotating disc. The longest anyone has ever intentionally stayed awake under scientific observation was a teenager named Randy Gardner, who in 1964 went 11 days without sleep. He survived, but by the end, he was a wreck. He was hallucinating, he couldn't concentrate, couldn't remember simple things, couldn't finish a sentence. His mind was coming apart in real time. And the moment he was finally allowed to sleep, his brain didn't just rest. It desperately clawed back what it had lost, plunging straight into the deepest stages of sleep as if it were starving for them. Because it was. The pattern is the same in a rat and in a person. Deny a brain sleep long enough and it starts to break. The only question is how long it takes. The man who ran the rat experiment spent his life trying to understand it, and he used to say something that stuck with an entire field. If sleep isn't serving some absolutely vital function, then it's the biggest mistake the evolutionary process has ever made. Think about what he meant by that. Evolution is ruthless. Anything that wastes time, anything that leaves you exposed, anything that doesn't earn its place gets erased over millions of years. And yet, here is sleep, the single most vulnerable state an animal can be in, and evolution kept it in everything. Which brings us to the strangest fact in all of sleep science. It's not just you. It's not just mammals. It's not even just animals with brains. Consider the jellyfish. A jellyfish has no brain. It has no spinal cord, no central nervous system, nothing we would recognize as a place where sleep could even happen. It is a loose net of nerves drifting in the water. And in 2017, scientists studying the upside-down jellyfish found something they almost couldn't believe. At night, it sleeps. Its pulsing slows down. It becomes harder to wake. And if you disturb its rest, it's groggy and sluggish the next day. Exactly like you after a bad night. Sit with what that means. Sleep is older than the brain, older than thought. It was already here before any animal had a mind complex enough to dream. Whatever sleep is doing, it is so fundamental that life started doing it before it even had the equipment to think. That is not what a design flaw looks like. That is what a load-bearing wall looks like. And when sleep became truly impossible to survive, evolution didn't get rid of it. It performed miracles to keep it. Look at the dolphin. A dolphin can't just drift off. If it fully lost consciousness, it would stop swimming to the surface and it would drown. It has to breathe on purpose, its whole life. So how does an animal that would die if it stopped paying attention ever sleep? It sleeps with half its brain at a time. One hemisphere drops into deep sleep while the other stays awake, keeping one eye open, steering the body up for air. Then they switch. Every dolphin you have ever seen was, at some point, half asleep and half awake at the same time. Think about how absurd this is. Faced with an animal that could not afford to sleep, evolution did not remove the need for sleep. It rebuilt the entire brain around it. It would have been so much simpler to just delete it. Evolution chose the miracle instead. Every time. Which tells you sleep is not optional downtime. It is something a body cannot live without. So what is it actually doing in there? For a long time, we assumed the answer was obvious. Rest. Recharging. But that answer was wrong. And what's really happening is far stranger. Start with your brain, because this is where it gets unsettling. Your brain has a problem no other organ has. It runs hot, all day, every second you're awake, and it produces waste. Every thought you think leaves behind a residue, metabolic garbage, including a protein called amyloid beta. And your brain has no room to store it. So it has to be flushed out. But here's the problem. The rest of your body clears its waste through the lymphatic system, a network of drainage vessels. Your brain, sealed inside your skull, doesn't have that. For most of medical history, nobody knew how the brain cleaned itself at all. Then, just over a decade ago, scientists found the answer, and it only switches on when you sleep. When you fall into deep sleep, the cells in your brain physically shrink. They pull back, opening up space around themselves. And through those newly opened channels, fluid rushes in and washes the brain, flushing the day's waste out. Researchers called it the glymphatic system, and early studies suggested this cleaning runs dramatically faster during sleep than during waking. Your brain, in other words, may spend the whole day getting dirty and only truly clean itself when you go unconscious. Miss that cleaning, and the garbage stays. And the main thing that builds up is the same protein found clumped in the brains of people with Alzheimer's. Now, I have to be honest with you here, because good science is honest. This is a young field, and it's being argued over right now. Some very recent studies have pushed back, suggesting the cleaning might not be as sleep-dependent as we first thought, or that some of it happens while you're awake too. Scientists are, at this moment, publicly debating exactly how it works, but the core finding keeps holding up. Sleep and the brain's ability to clean itself are deeply physically linked. Whatever the final answer is, your brain is doing something at night it cannot fully do any other way. But cleaning is only half of it, because while one part of your brain is taking out the garbage, another part is doing something almost unbelievable. It is deciding who you are. Everything that happened to you today, every face, every word, every route you walked, is being held in a temporary buffer, a region deep in your brain called the hippocampus. Think of it as a whiteboard, fast to write on, but it wipes clean. If those memories are going to last, they have to be moved somewhere permanent, copied out to the vast storage of the cortex, the part of you that holds a lifetime. And that transfer almost only happens when you sleep. Here's how we know. Scientists watched the brains of rats as they ran through a maze. Specific neurons fired in a specific order, mapping the path. Then the rats went to sleep, and researchers kept watching. And in the sleeping brain, those exact same neurons fired again, in the exact same order, just faster, compressed. The rat was running the maze again in its sleep, replaying the day, burning it into permanent memory. Your brain does this every night with your life. It replays what happened, decides what matters, and quietly deletes the rest. The moments you'll keep forever and the moments you'll never recall again are being sorted right now, tonight, while you're unconscious and have no say in it. This is why you can't cram for an exam without sleep. It's why a skill you struggled with can feel easier the morning after. You didn't practice. You slept, and your brain rehearsed it for you, in the dark. The person who wakes up tomorrow knows things the person who went to bed did not, because sleep isn't the absence of learning. Sleep is when the learning is actually saved. And this may be the hidden reason you dream at all. For centuries, we treated dreams as noise or as messages from somewhere else. But if your brain spends the night replaying and reshuffling your memories, deciding what to keep and what to weave into everything you already know, then a dream might be what that process feels like from the inside. Fragments of your day colliding with older memories, stitched into something strange as your brain files it all away. You are not watching a random show. You may be watching your own mind sort through your life and briefly getting to sit in the audience. So let's go back to the beginning, to the question that made no sense. Why would evolution keep a state this dangerous? Why lie down defenseless for a third of your life? Now you can see the answer. It was never a trade-off between safety and laziness. It was a trade-off between two kinds of survival. Yes, sleeping in the dark was dangerous. But not sleeping meant a brain drowning in its own waste, and a mind that couldn't hold on to anything it learned. An animal that stayed awake to stay safe would slowly lose the very thing that kept it alive, a working, remembering brain. The danger of sleeping was real. The danger of not sleeping was worse. So evolution made its choice, and it made it in every creature that has a nervous system, all the way down to a jellyfish with no brain at all. And this changes how you should think about the hours you're about to lose tonight. We treat sleep like a tax, wasted time, something we'd skip if we could, something we brag about needing less of. But that's backwards. You are not shutting down tonight. You are being maintained, cleaned, rewritten. The 8 hours you're about to disappear into are not time subtracted from your life. They are the hours that make the rest of your life possible. Every night you lie down and hand yourself over to a process older than the human brain, older than thought itself, one that cleans out the damage of being awake and decides which pieces of your day get to become part of who you are. You've done it every night since before you can remember. You'll do it tonight. And in the morning, you'll wake up as someone slightly new, rebuilt in the dark by a machine you never see and never thank. We call it losing consciousness. Maybe it's the most important thing we ever do.